I arrived with a suitcase in one hand and a gift bag in the other. The house was quiet, too quiet for December 23rd. No scent of cinnamon candles, no Nat King Cole playing from Mom's Bluetooth speaker, just silence. Then the door opened. "Oh, Evelyn, you're early," Mom said, stepping aside without a hug. Behind her, the hallway was already lined with luggage, new, matching suitcases, 4 of them. Sierra's voice floated in from the kitchen. "Can you believe the resort has its own butler service? Mark looked it up. They even press your clothes." I stood in the doorway, not quite inside. My chest tightened around something I hadn't named yet. I'd spent the past 3 months working 2 jobs to afford my share of this trip. A student cafe in the mornings, campus library until close. I packed lunches, skipped haircuts, sent Sierra the full $3,000 in early November, just like she asked. Dad stepped out from the living room, clearing his throat the way he does when things are about to get awkward. "Pumpkin," he said, "can we talk a minute before dinner?" They sat me down at the kitchen table. Mom's holiday centerpiece glowed softly between us, the little LED candles flickering like they were trying to apologize. Sierra smiled. That same rehearsed, soft smile she's had since we were kids. "There's been a change of plans," she began. "We've hit a few snags with the cafe. Numbers aren't what we hoped. So, Mom, Dad, Mark and I decided it's best you sit this one out. The money's already gone toward booking." I stared at her, at all of them. They looked back like this was kindness. It wasn't the first time I'd been left out. Not really. When Sierra won her regional debate competition in 10th grade, Mom baked a 3-layer cake and made t-shirts that said "Future Senator." When I got the lead in our middle school play, she clapped politely and left halfway through, because Sierra had called with something urgent about a paper. There were always more urgent things when it came to Sierra. 5 years older, 5 inches taller, and in my parents' eyes, 5 times more destined for greatness. She was the born leader. I was the quiet one. She spoke up. I stayed out of the way. It didn't hurt the first few times. Not really. You tell yourself they're just busy, that your time will come. But that time never did. By the time I was 13, Sierra had gone off to college on the East Coast. I remember standing on the porch, waving as their SUV disappeared down the street, thinking maybe, just maybe, this was when I'd stop being the afterthought. I was wrong. Sierra called nearly every day. Her voice filled the kitchen via speakerphone while Mom cooked dinner. Dad would light up when she talked about business seminars or case competitions. "She's really got that Carter drive," he'd say, nodding as if Sierra had inherited it straight from him. I'd slide my homework aside to make room for their laptop when Sierra visited during dinner. No one noticed when I stopped sitting at the table, but Grandpa Walter did. He lived 2 houses down in the old craftsman-style home with the creaky porch swing and chipped blue shutters. That place smelled like pipe tobacco and old books. It smelled like history, like someone remembered to live there. When things got too loud at home, not the kind of loud you hear, but the kind that swallows you, I'd slip out the back and walk to Grandpa's. He never made a show of it. He'd just scoot over on the couch and hand me the remote. "Roman Holiday or Casablanca?" He always had mint chocolate chip ice cream in the freezer. We'd eat straight from the tub, 1 spoon each, no words necessary. Other nights we played chess, or listened to jazz, or sat out on the back deck, watching the sky change shape. "You don't need the spotlight, Evelyn," he said once. "People think it's where greatness lives, but sometimes the best ones stay just out of it, until the moment matters." He never said Sierra's name, never needed to. When I turned 16, he taught me how to drive. When I got rejected from student council, he bought me a paint set and said, "You're allowed to make your own picture." And on the worst days, like the time Mom forgot to pick me up from practice because Sierra needed help with a grant application, he'd say nothing. Just hand me a soda and slide a comic book across the table. Sometimes silence is the loudest kind of love. Was it really love from my parents? If it only showed up when Sierra wasn't already taking up the space? I kept waiting for them to notice me. They didn't. I got accepted to UC Berkeley with a partial scholarship. Mom mentioned it in passing to the neighbors after asking if they'd seen Sierra's startup video. But Grandpa took me out for steak dinner, just us 2. He made a toast with apple cider and said, "You're not following in anyone's footsteps, you're leaving your own." I didn't cry then, but I remember holding that glass tighter than I needed to, like maybe, if I gripped it hard enough, the words would last longer. I left for college with 2 bags, a second-hand laptop, and a heart split right down the middle. One half full of hope, the other full of everything I'd never said out loud. Grandpa Walter passed away in early spring of my freshman year, in his sleep. No warning, no goodbye. I found out through a voicemail. Mom's voice was shaky but not broken. "He's gone, Evelyn. I thought you should know." The funeral was small, respectful. Sierra wore designer black and didn't smudge her mascara once. Mark hovered like he always did, 2 steps behind, mouth tight, eyes scanning for approval. After the service, we met at the attorney's office for the reading of the will. The air smelled like wood polish and old carpet. I sat on the far end of the conference table, unsure whether I should even be there. "To my daughter Elaine," the lawyer read, "I leave $50,000. Mom smiled, even teared up a little, squeezing Dad's hand. "To my granddaughter, Sierra Carter, I leave $300,000. Sierra's face lit up like a chandelier. "Baby," she whispered to Mark, "we can finally do the second location." She turned to me then, not out of curiosity, but to confirm what I hadn't received. I stared straight ahead. "And to my granddaughter, Evelyn Carter," the lawyer continued, "I leave my home in Evergreen, Colorado, including all contents and adjacent property." There was a beat of silence. Then Sierra laughed. Not cruel, just amused, like someone watching a child win a toy from a claw machine. "Oh my God, you got the house?" she said, practically giddy. "That's hilarious." Mark chuckled softly beside her. "Hey, maybe you can sell it and get a nice car, if it doesn't collapse first." Mom scolded her half-heartedly, but her eyes never left Sierra's beaming face. They'd already moved on, talking about wedding venues and wine pairings. I sat there trying to hear Grandpa's voice in the walls, trying to believe that what he left me wasn't just what was left over. The house wasn't worth much, not in cash, but it held jazz records and dented teacups, books with notes in the margins, a porch swing that knew my weight by heart. It was where I had existed fully, for once. It started with dinner, like most things in my family. I'd come home for a weekend between finals. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, candlelight. The good china was out, which only meant one thing. Sierra had news. Sure enough, she waited until dessert. "We've been thinking," she said, swirling her wine like someone twice her age and 10 times more self-important. "Now that we're focused on growing the cafe, it'd make sense for Mark and me to move into Evergreen." I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. She meant Grandpa's house. My house. I opened my mouth, but Mom got there first. "Honey, it's perfect timing. You're away at college most of the year, and Sierra and Mark could really use the space." I waited for the follow-up, the courtesy question, but none came. Dad nodded. "They're responsible. They'll take care of it." "And of course," Sierra added, setting her glass down with theatrical care, "we're family. You're not seriously thinking of charging rent, are you?" The room laughed. I didn't. I'd run the numbers, property taxes, maintenance, utilities. The house might be mine on paper, but living in it, or even keeping it, came with a cost. "I was thinking of renting it out," I said quietly. The silence was quick and sharp. Mom sighed, the way she did when I'd bring home anything less than an A. "Oh, sweetheart, why let strangers into Grandpa's space? Family comes first." Mark was suddenly interested in his potatoes again. Sierra smiled, not at me, but past me, as if I wasn't even part of the discussion anymore. That night, I lay awake in my childhood bed, listening to the familiar creak of pipes, wondering how something could be legally mine but emotionally unavailable. I could have said no. I could have told them to find their own place, but what would that have changed? They wouldn't hear me. They never had. I threw myself into work like it might save me. Campus cafe from 6 to 10, 3 classes, 2 labs. Library assistant until midnight. I skipped takeout. I skipped birthdays. I sold old textbooks online. And every time I thought about quitting, I pictured myself in the sun, with my family, in St. Bart's. In early November, Sierra texted, "We're finalizing bookings. Need your share today to lock everything in." I wired $3,000 that afternoon. Every penny I had. It felt worth it. I even let myself look at swimsuits online, found a simple navy one-piece on sale. Lisa, my roommate, let me borrow her suitcase, the good one with wheels that worked. By the time December 23rd came, I was packed, early, buzzing. But something was off the moment I stepped into my parents' foyer. The lights were on, but the air felt hesitant. Dinner was quiet. Sierra and Mark arrived late. Their coats still smelled like travel brochures. Fake tan, fake pine, fake warmth. When we sat down, Mom passed around rolls like this was just any night. Then Sierra cleared her throat. "We need to talk," she said. Mark didn't look up. Dad sighed like he'd practiced. "The cafe's not doing well," Sierra began. "Margins are tighter than we expected, so after talking it over, we all agreed. You should sit this one out." My fork froze mid-air. "But I paid." "Yes," she said, with the same smile she used when I lost class president in 9th grade. "And that really helped cover deposits." "Thank you." I blinked. "You used my money?" "It's still for the trip," she said. "And you'll have the house to yourself. Some quiet. Catch up on reading." Mom touched my arm like that made it generous. "Family means being flexible, Evelyn." Was it still family if I was the only one ever expected to bend? Nobody said another word. Not about the money, not about me. After dinner, Sierra went upstairs to pack. I stayed at the table, watching the candles burn low, the wax sliding down like something trying not to cry. On Christmas morning, I smiled. I stood on the porch, coat buttoned, suitcase by my side. They were loading luggage into 2 black SUVs, matching monogrammed tags, new sunglasses, the kind of money that doesn't forget to look expensive. "You've got the keys, right?" Mom called. I nodded. "Water the plants, check the mail." "And turn off the porch lights before bed," Dad added. Sierra leaned out of the window. "We'll send photos, don't feel left out." She laughed like she'd told a joke. I smiled and waved. They didn't look back. The second the SUVs turned the corner, I went inside. Not my parents' house. My house. Evergreen was still. Snow falling in soft, slow flakes. Inside, the air was warm but wrong. Sierra's things were everywhere. Designer coats in Grandpa's closet. Mark's shaving kit on the bathroom sink. Their wedding photo sat where Grandpa's chessboard used to be. I stood there for a long moment, letting the silence return to the room. Then I moved. I started in the bedroom, packed clothes, shoes, skincare, into boxes. Next, the kitchen, espresso machine, imported olive oils, their engagement mugs. I didn't throw anything. I didn't break a single glass. I just removed them, one by one, like someone uninviting guests who overstayed. In Grandpa's study, I found a drawer I hadn't opened in years. Inside, an old photo. Me and him on the lake, fishing lines tangled, both of us laughing like the world didn't exist outside that boat. On the back, in his handwriting, "To Evelyn, the quiet ones always come back stronger." I placed the photo above the mantel, where it used to hang. Then I called a moving company, paid triple for a holiday job. They came, no questions asked. By sunset, everything was boxed and gone. Last stop, the locksmith. He was an older man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes. "Rough Christmas?" he asked. I smiled. "Just long overdue." He replaced every lock. When he finished, he handed me the new keys. I didn't celebrate. I didn't call anyone. I just sat on Grandpa's old armchair, wrapped myself in the quilt he used to keep by the fireplace, and listened to the creak of the floor settle under only my weight. The first message arrived at 9:12 a.m., then 5 more, then 10, then 50. By noon, my phone was vibrating non-stop. Mom, Dad, Sierra, even Mark. Mom: "Evelyn, what's going on? Everything's gone. Please tell me this is some kind of misunderstanding. You've gone too far." Sierra: "Are you serious? You had no right. What the hell did you do with our stuff?" Mark: "Finally. The locks won't turn. Did you change them? You can't just evict family." Each message buzzed like an insect under glass. But I didn't reply. Not at first. By early evening, my call log read 83 missed calls. The last one said, "Mom." I picked up. She didn't wait for hello. "Evelyn, what is wrong with you?" Dad's voice jumped in from the background. "You changed the locks? Without even warning us?" I sat cross-legged in Grandpa's chair, holding the phone with one hand, steady. "Let me talk," I said. They went quiet, maybe from surprise. "Just this once," I added. "Let me actually finish a sentence." No one spoke. "You took my money," I said. $3,000 I earned cleaning floors and shelving books. You used it to buy cocktails in the Caribbean. You let Sierra and Mark live in my house, rent-free, without asking. You made decisions about my life like I wasn't in the room. Like I never have been. I paused. And when I finally said no, not even out loud, just with action, you act like I set fire to the family tree. Mom started to interrupt. That's not... No, let me finish. I breathed in once, held it. You always said family means sacrifice, but I was the only one ever asked to give anything up. They can stay with you, or figure it out like adults. But the house? That was Grandpa's gift, and for the first time in my life, I'm keeping something that's mine. The silence that followed was the truest thing we'd ever shared. "I hope you're proud of yourself," Dad said finally, flat and cold. I looked at the framed photo above the mantel, Grandpa on the boat, one arm around my shoulder. "I think someone would be..." I hung up, then I turned my phone off. Let the room go quiet again. Not empty. Just, finally, mine. That was a year ago. I'm in my final semester now, graduating in May. The house in Evergreen is no longer a relic. It's a rental. I hired a property manager. A retired teacher and her husband live there now with their golden retriever and their herb garden. They send postcards sometimes. The rent covers taxes and insurance, with enough left over to build savings. Something no one ever taught me, but Grandpa probably hoped I'd learn. Sierra's cafe went under 6 months ago. She blamed the economy, then the location, then bad partnerships. She and Mark moved back in with my parents, last I heard, into the guest room that used to be mine. They tried calling again, once, maybe twice. Mom sent a long email about rebuilding bridges. Dad forwarded a meme about forgiveness. Sierra posted a picture captioned, "Some people just don't get what family means." I didn't reply. I don't need to explain myself. Not anymore. Some nights, when the city's quiet and my windows cracked open just enough to hear the wind, I think about Grandpa's house, about the sound the porch swing made when you sat down too fast, about the way his jazz records popped before the first note, about the moment I realized he never once called me less than. He just called me Evelyn. Not quiet one. Not Sierra's sister. Just me. I don't know if they'll ever understand why I did what I did. I don't know if they even believe they hurt me. But I do know this. I didn't need their permission to reclaim my space. I didn't need their apology to reclaim my voice. And I don't need their love to know I'm worth something. Above my desk, I keep the photo. The one of Grandpa and me on the lake, tangled fishing lines and all. On the back, I wrote in my own handwriting, "Still here, still quiet, still mine." I didn't take revenge. I took back what was mine, and that was enough. If silence was ever the only way you were heard, just leave a dot. Someone like you will understand.